Hey, hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been months and months since I last did a video. I'm really sorry. I've been super busy. And then I got I just wasn't feeling it. I got some kind of way. And then I had a work trip, which lasted for a couple of months. And then I came back and then I was gone for the holidays, visiting family and friends. And I was just wasn't in a place where I could do videos. And now I'm back. So happy New Year, starting over. I am going to try and do a faster Funnier for this one. So I'm going to be covering kind of a lot of books because I'm doing both quarter 3 and 4 of 2025 into one video. So I'm not going to get super in depth. I'm really just going to talk about my ratings and a couple of thoughts about each of them. But yeah, so if you're ready, buckle in. Okay, so starting out strong in July, we have Edgedancer. That is the novella that happens between book 2 and 3 of the Stormlight Archives series. The very first chapter is actually just a copy paste of one of the interlude chapters in book 2. You are following an Edgedancer, which is one of the types of radiance. Specifically, you're following Lift. Lift is my absolute favorite side character of the entire series. She was my favorite side character in book 2 when she showed up. And then reading Edgedancer just really solidified it for me. I absolutely loved this book. It was so much fun. I gave it a 4.75. The next book I read in July was Oathbringer, and this one was basically all of July. I started it on the 1st of July, and I finished it on the 30th. It is behemoth. All of these books are behemoths. It was a long read, but it's a really good one. This is one of the ones where you really start to see the threads of the Cosmere coming together. You're seeing references to some of the earlier books, especially Warbreaker, who there's a character in Warbreaker that plays a really big role later on, but these things are starting to get introduced, and you're starting to really see how everything is connected in the Cosmere. So yeah, that one I gave it a 4.5. Starting out in August, I read Dawshard, which is the book between books 3 and 4 of Stormlight Archives. This one you're following Riss, who is another side character who is, she's essentially a merchant's apprentice, and you're following her and her master. There's a specific name for that, and I can't remember name here for what that is. You're following them on a merchant trip, basically traveling. And it's super fun. I really enjoyed it. So I gave that one a 4.5. The next book I read was A Slap in the Face. I was so disappointed in it. Strange Sally Diamond, I think, had the weakest ending I have read in a hot minute. Everything that had been done up until the last 50 pages got undone in a single page. It was so disheartening. It was really frustrating. It felt like Liz Nugent is the author. It felt like maybe she had been given a deadline and she couldn't do any more editing, and so she just said all right, screw it, and then just sent that as an FU, and then they just published it. That's the vibes I got from it. I was so disappointed. I do not recommend. I gave it a 2.5. I should have known when my friend gave me this book and she was like, I didn't like it because she was trying to get rid of it. That I also wouldn't like it, but oh my goodness, I really underestimated the level at which I wouldn't. It's just so much. It was so good up to that point. It was so disappointing. But yeah, 2.5. The next book and last book I read for August was Carrie, Stephen King. If you're unfamiliar with the broader story of Carrie, it can basically be boiled down to if you bully someone enough, they will eventually snap. Has some magic. It's presented as a case study or a journalistic investigation, which meant that periodically it was a little bit jarring because you'd be taken out of the story to talk about their musings, the author within the author, their musings on this interesting specimen, and then go back into the story, and I didn't particularly like that. And as a result, I gave it a 3.75. It just wasn't for me. That's particular stylistic choice, but ultimately I did like the book enough, clearly, because I gave it a 3.75. September now is Rhythm of Wars, the first book I read in September. That's the 4th book in the Stormlight Archives. This one has my favorite of the whole series. It has my favorite side character dynamic. There was a protagonist-y character and an antagonist-y character working in this really interesting gray zone, working together and against each other in tandem. It was like a dance. It was beautiful. I really liked it. That was so much fun. Rhythm of War might be my favorite book in the series. I'm not super sure. Maybe. I really liked it though. I gave it a 4.5. Next book starting October out was Katabasis, which is by R.F. Kuang. So if you remember, I had read Yellowface earlier this year and I really didn't like it, but one thing I had mentioned was that I could tell that she was clearly a very good author. I just wasn't vibing with that particular telling, that story that she was telling. Katabasis, totally my jam. Absolutely my vibe. Really complicated magical system. Sign me up. Dante's 7 rings of hell. Is it 7? 9? 10? How many rings are in this inferno? Please. Dante's Inferno. No, not Inferno. Levels? 9. 9 circles of hell. Got there in the end. Anyway, it was super fun. I gave it a 4.75. I really liked it. That was very much like a redemption arc for me, for the author. The next book I read was Stormfront. This is by Jim Butcher. It's the first book in the Dresden files. It was so goofy. Like fantasy gumshoe. I cast gun. Yes. Very formulaic. Very fun nonetheless. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a suggestion from a friend who was taken aback that I had never read it, because I'm always into these silly little culty things, and that very much is one of those like cult classic style series. But yeah, I gave it a 4.25. Next book I read was A Sorceress Comes to Call. This is one of those like skip the line books that popped up on my Libby. And I was like, sure, yeah, whatever, it's a fantasy, I don't know. Started it. It's by T. Kingfisher, who I had never heard of prior to this point. I don't know if I was just living under a rock or like what. Apparently she's very popular, might be. And I see why. It was a lot of fun. I really liked that book. The antagonist was like genuinely pretty spooky. And even though it was very short, I still felt satisfied with like the ending. I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it a 4.25. The next book that I read was, and you can judge me if you want to, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I was working in the I was on my work trip, so I was in a new working environment at this point. I was trying to make friends, and I was already kind of hitting it off with one of the girls in the office, and she had mentioned that they had a book club, and they were going to be talking about the ACOTAR book 2, like, the following week. And I really wanted to make friends, and I thought she was so cool, and her friends must be really cool, and so I decided to read it. And you know what? I don't regret it. I enjoyed it, ultimately. I did give it a poor rating. I gave it a 3.25. There was a lot of tropiness, and the writing wasn't amazing, and there was, like, everybody's jaw feathers, and everything's watery. All the light is watery for some reason, and bowels are watery too. Whatever. I hate Tamlin with every fiber of my being. He was really creepy the whole book, and he was supposed to be like the charming main male character. But I was interested enough in like what was going to go on with the big story that I was like, you know what? Plus the external motivation of this book club, like I'm just going to continue. So I ultimately did continue, but I gave it a 3.25. That's by Sarah J. Maas, if you happen to not know that. The next book that I read in October was Craft. This is by Ananda Lima. This was an interesting one. You're following this like journalist or author something who is like recounting how she has interacted with the devil-made like manifest as a real person at random turning points throughout her life. And the first one, like the very first scene, is at like a Halloween party. And I was worried it was going to be spicy because I was reading it at work between random things that I needed to do, meetings and stuff, as my like decompression thing to do. And it wasn't very spicy. I think there was one scene that could be construed as spicy, but it wasn't spicy enough that I felt weird about it. I really liked this book. I liked how it was presented. I thought it was a little otherworldly, which I think it was supposed to be. It was just a good read. I gave it a 4.0. The last book that I finished in October was Full Moon. This is the second book in the Dresden files. It was another gumshoe, but this time it was werewolf flavored. I gave it a 4.25 because I had fun. The first book I read in November now was A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas, and I gave it a 4.25. I think mostly because I just like trials. I that's a trope I like. Sarah J. Maas is a tropey-ass writer, and I really liked that particular one. I don't like love triangles, though, which comes up later. But I enjoyed this one. I thought this was... The next book that I read was A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the third book in the series, and this is the one where you're, like, really starting to get to know who, like, Riss is and stuff. And I enjoyed it enough to give it a 4.25 as well, so we'll call that what that is. I was enjoying the series. Sometimes you just gotta read something because you like it, not because it's, like, a work of literary genius, you know? Not everything you read is going to be amazing. And if you are enjoying it and it's getting you to read and you are having a good time, then keep on keeping on, you know? I redact all of the vast majority of my teasing that I had made prior to this point, where I had been saying I was not going to read romantasy. I don't like spicy books very much. I don't like spice. I don't like reading spice a whole lot, which is funny because a lot of the reading that I did at the end of the year was, like, spicy. It makes me feel weird. My mom once teased me because I was, like, skipping through a sex scene or something in a TV show or making uncomfortable noises or something. I don't know, whatever. And she called me a prude. And it's like, you know what? When it comes to my media that I'm consuming, I kind of can be sometimes. And that's just, like, a weird little character flaw that I have. I don't care if you read the smuttiest smut. I just don't like doing it in a place where people can see me, and even when I'm reading it on my own, I feel weird. That's just me. Okay, moving on. Hemlock and Silver is the next book I read. It's another T. Kingfisher book. I liked it, but not as much as I liked A Sorcerer Comes to Call. I feel like it was very wave-toppy. I felt like there was a lot more room to explore both the characters and the world, and if it had been longer, it would have been better. And so I gave it a 3.75. Let me see if I have anything, like, really specific in my review for it, because I do review every book after I write it. By the way, if you want to, like, follow me on Fable or Goodreaders, please do, because I am on both of them. I use Fable because I like the outputs at the end of the year a lot more, and I like the UI in general a lot more, but I use Goodreader because a lot of my friends are on Goodreader, so, like, follow me on one or the other or both or whatever. But I said, right, the last 3 chapters felt really, really rushed, and I was disappointed. And it ended really, really neatly. That's a thing. That's, like, a theme with my ratings. I don't like books that end with a pretty little bow. I'd rather it be, like, a little bit satisfying and occasionally, like, a little bit not. I really like it when they're open-ended. And so when something gets wrapped up like that, it just makes me feel sort of hollow. And I don't appreciate that a whole lot. But I do want to acknowledge that, like, the narration in the book acknowledges that some stuff moves really quickly. And that felt very tongue-in-cheek to me. It felt like there was, like, maybe a limit to how long this book could be, or something. I don't know. But I thought the magic was interesting. I thought the world was really interesting. I thought that this book would be a good taste test into the world of fantasy, for people who maybe aren't sure if they're ready to commit to, like, the big epics that everybody always suggests when they're saying, hey, I want to read fantasy. Like, fantasy readers tend to read the circle of friends that I have, and, like, the circles of the internet that I operate on. Whenever people ask what kind of fantasy they should read, people tend to suggest reading these big, long, multi-book series. And that's really intimidating for a lot of people, for myself included. If I see a series has a really, like, a lot of installments, I get worried that I'm going to lose interest or that I'm not going to like it. And I feel some kind of way whenever I abandon a series, when I don't finish something. I feel some kind of way when I don't finish a book, full stop. And I've pushed myself through books that I probably didn't, I mean, I never need to, but I, like, probably could have just put down earlier instead of just hate reading, although there are a few books I have hate read. And that can be fun too. But either way, Hemlock and Silver is a standalone, so I think it's a good, like, little dip your toe in, see how you like it. It is wave-toppy enough that it can appeal to a broader audience, but it's in-depth enough that it might hook somebody who previously wouldn't be interested in reading fantasy, and then now maybe they're interested in starting like a shorter series, like maybe Mistborn Series 1 or something like that. Either way, I did dock a pretty significant amount of points, for which I gave a 3.75. I might have already said that. I don't know. I'm sorry. Next book that I read, one of the top books that I read this year, was Butcher of the Forest. This is by Premee Mohammed. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I probably did. I loved this book from start to finish. This is like, all of it happens in this really small sliver of this world, primarily in this one forest. It's like a magical forest. It's like a fairy forest, but it's not like fairies like in Sarah J. Maas books. This is like Irish fairies. This is like Germanic folklore. Like, don't walk into the fairy ring, don't give them your name, don't like make a deal with them. These are tricksters, and I loved it. Oh my god, I loved it. I loved every second of it. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4.75, but I think that I might retcon that to a 5 because I just really liked it. It's one of those books I still think about. Next book that I read in still November was A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is the 4th book, or like 3.5 in the ACOTAR series. It is the Christmas special of the series. Not very much happens at all. By this point, I'm starting to get I'm already bored of the main male character and main female character, like, relationship, whatever, I don't care. It does set up some stuff for the next book, but I don't even know if it's necessary to read. If I'm honest with you, I can't think of anything in particular that, like, you couldn't just kind of pick up on your own reading the next book. But I gave it a 3.5. It's whatever. Next book I read was Throne of Glass, because it had been suggested to me since people were like, oh, you like The Court of Thorns and Roses, you might like this book. I was like, well, I'm only kind of liking the ACOTAR book. But I was obviously eating through them, so maybe they were right. Clearly they were right. I'm also still reading Throne of Glass, like the series. I finished the first book, obviously. This is, I call this one just a fantasy, not a romantasy. It didn't feel the same to me. I don't know. There obviously is like romance subplots happening in it, whatever. But it didn't feel like that was the main arc. It didn't feel like that was the main point. I obviously liked it because it is more trials. Give me the trial trope. I love them. This one was fun, despite her young age, whatever. I really enjoyed this one particularly because this was a character, Selena Sardouthian is her name. She was already good at the thing that she was going to be competing, and it was like in a proper competition. And she's training and getting better, so that she has a better chance to win, but it's a competition of a thing that she's already good at. She's not some random layman that was like pulled up off the street and just magically made amazing. She's not quite that Mary Sue. I really liked it. I gave it a 4.75. And I know that this book was written when, like, forever and ever ago when she was like a teenager or something, but for some reason, something about the writing for it felt more matured. Not mature. It wasn't like mature themes or anything. It was like matured than ACOTAR. And I can't really put my finger on why. And I know that other people have described it as like Wattpad-esque, but sometimes, there are some good books on Wattpad, so I don't know. Whatever. Either way, clearly I liked it. I gave it a 4.75. The next book is A Court of Silver Flames. I rated this really low, mostly because the ending was too neat again for me. I really don't like neat endings. That was something that I didn't like about the third book either, and I don't think I mentioned this. It's just so clean. The stakes don't matter, and I hate that. I want the stakes to matter. But I love Nesta. I love Nesta so much. So despite having probably the lowest rating of the series, it's probably my favorite of the series. It's so contradictory. I know. I gave it a 3.75 when I rated it. But, say la vie. I rated all of them immediately after reading them, so it's based on whatever my initial impression was versus like me sitting and marinating about it. That fifth book is my favorite book of the series. Anyway, the next book I read was Crown of Midnight. This one is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. I don't remember what happened in that book, which is weird. Let me go see. I rated it pretty high too. Let me see what happened. Crown of Midnight. This one, ultimately, I'm thoroughly hooked. Oh yeah, this is the one that had like the love triangle trope. I'm so not into that. And there was a reveal that like took 1 trillion years to actually be revealed, even though it had been essentially revealed like chapters prior. And it was very weird that it took until the very end of the book for them to be like, and this person is actually this other person. Like, I don't want to spoil it for you, but like, bro, do you think your readers are dumb? Maybe. But I enjoyed the book overall, and I liked how it ended, with the exception of this stupid weak ass reveal. I don't know, that was just whatever, but clearly I was vibing it when I rated it, because I rated it 4.25. And then the next book I read was Heir of Fire. This is the third book in the series, and it might be my favorite book. I'm not super sure. It was another train to get better. This one was a little bit more just magically became super good at the thing. But there was some actual, like, there was some earning. Some of it was earned, at least. But it's funny, this is the first book that I properly recognized that Sarah J. Maas has this like very obvious tell when she's introducing a new love interest, because they are described in a very particular way. Like if their muscles are rippling and their shoulders are broad and their jaw feathers when they look at you, like he's probably somebody that they're gonna do some stuff. But like later on. But yeah, I don't know, whatever. I liked this one a lot. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5. And then the next book that I read was, and we're still in November by the way if you're keeping count, Assassin's Blade. I know it's a prequel, you're supposed to read it before Throne of Glass, but meine Meinung ist, dass wir das Buch später lesen sollten, weil it's just so much more impactful if you read it later. It's essentially a collection of short stories, and they're all about Selena like going through childhood and teenagerhood and like training and learning and the big impactful things that really shaped her life, the like moments where it's like everyone will remember that if you're playing a video game. And I don't think that if I had read this first, I would have cared nearly as much, because I'm so emotionally invested in Selena at this point. I wouldn't have cared, because there's not enough space to develop that kind of care in these short stories. And two, it doesn't really lend itself to being a prequel. It's not like, and then there's more, keep reading guys. It's like, all right, cool, good set of short stories about this one character, cool, whatever. But because I read it after Heir of Fire, I knew who one of like alluded to characters that comes up periodically in the first few books is. I know like why. I know why that matters so much and why she still brings him up. And now I know why her relationship with this other person is the way it is. And then also fun little Easter eggs for us all is some of the characters will show up later in the series. And now you know a little bit about their backstory. But I don't have any emotional connection to those characters. If one of those characters who had not pre-existed to this point died, I would not care. Without some serious legwork, which happens with one of the characters that does play a pretty significant role in Assassin's Blade, that didn't play a significant role in the earlier books, but that character got a lot of legwork, and I am now emotionally invested in that character as well. There's just a lot of extra work, and I would not have felt that way if I had read it before Throne of Glass, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm clearly in the camp post Heir of Fire for that one. The next book I read was Watermoon, and if you were to ask me to describe this book in a single sentence, I would say it's like reading a Ghibli movie. It's just beautiful and a little bit weird. It's very Japanese in its pacing, even though the author herself, Samantha Sotto Yambao, is not Japanese. She really like grasped that feeling, that vibe that I've gotten from reading other Japanese fiction this year. So, yep, that one was a solid 5. really liked that one. And the cover for that is so pretty. I read it digitally, so like that super doesn't matter. But I really liked it. The next and last book that I read in November was Queen of Shadows. This is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, and I gave it a 3.5, and that's mostly because Sarah J. Maas has no freaking clue how to end a book sometimes. Oh my god. It was like when you watch an 80s movie and every single character gets their little wrap up, but you're getting that in book form, and it takes longer to consume. It was really frustrating. It felt like it had ended in a really good, conclusive manner, and then, oh, wait, there's more. Oh, this other character, because each character is only like dedicated chapter, this other character gets to have their ending, and then, no, wait, there's more, and another character gets to have their ending. Like, it's okay. I wish that she would embrace the concept of an epilogue and a prologue. It doesn't need to be presented from a particular character's point of view, or it can be from one but covering everyone or whatever. There's just ways to do this where you can still see everybody's endings without making me feel like this book is ended 15 fucking times. It was more like 6, but still, that was too many, so I clearly docked a lot. I was not vibing with that ending. Called it a 3.5. Now we're in December. We're in the home stretch. 5th book of Stormlight Archives, Wind and Truth. Chonker. Big old book. I started this book in September. It took me a minute. That whole last book is covering 10 days, and like some of it I think could have been cut. Some of it was like nothing was happening. A lot of it, lots of things were happening. And having some break breather moments is important for books of this like scope and scale. So I appreciate that, but also, oh my gosh, I know that the editor switched out at some point, but I think this is the first time I felt it. Like, it felt apparent because the editing felt different. And I did find myself getting a little bit bored occasionally, but it would pick up before I would get bored enough that I wouldn't want to touch it again. So take that as you will. I gave it a 4.5. Next book I read was Empire of Storms. This is the 5th book in the Stormlight, 5th book in the Throne of Glass series. This is one of the ones that people suggest doing a tandem read. They suggest you do a tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn because they're like covering the same time chronologically. I don't think I ascribe to that. I don't think it needs that. I think that I think you can probably figure it out yourself. You're following on two completely different continents. So you're following the main party in this one. This is like the battle book. Like, things are happening, ramping up. There's some clashes. It was really, really fun. I liked this one a lot. There's a super awesome character that shows up. I think this is the first book that she shows up in. And I'm a huge fan of her, and I gave this book a 4. Yeah, 4.0. Then Alloy of Law was next, which is the first book of the Wax and Wane series, which is the second era of the Mistborn series. So it takes place on the same planet as Mistborn. And I know I have to go Google it because I don't remember. Mistborn planet. Because Rashar is the one from Stormlight Archives. There's just so much more of that. Scadrial. So Scadrial this planet has a particular magic system. All the planets have their own individual magic systems. So this magic system is just like the evolution of what was presented to us in the first era of Mistborn. There's new alloys. There's like new methods of combining modern inventions such as like guns and weaponry with their magic, and like I thought it was really clever. I had a lot of fun. This was another case of like I cast gun, which I'm here for. Alloy of Law is also just like, it's like Western fantasy, like spurs and cowboy hat Western, and I just really, really liked it. I love Wayne so much. I'm such a like sucker for a fun side character. And the second book, I don't finish it in this year, but the second book like really solidified how much I love Wayne. Anyway, I give this one a 4.25. Sanderson is obviously just high up on my list of people whose writing I love. Next book I read was Tower of Dawn. This is the 6th book of the Throne of Glass series. I really, really liked this one. You're following, I'm not going to say, I guess the audiobook pronounces his name as like Kale or Kale like chaos but with an L. I have been pronouncing it in my head as like howl, like with a ch sound, howl.
You have to when you say it.
Which is, I guess, wrong, but whatever, that's just how my head says it, so that's how I say it, and I like his development in this one, the predicament he's put in. I like his relationship with Irene. I felt like this one was a little bit more self-aware in certain places, and ultimately I also liked that, like, I know what was happening across the sea, and as that news was like trickling in to Hull and Irene and all of the people down in that other the southern continent, I appreciated like their interpretations and them only getting snippets of it. And I know that there's more, and that's fun for me. I see the appeal of why somebody would want to do a tandem read. That just feels kind of tedious to me, so I didn't do it. But yeah, I gave that one a 4.25. The next book I read, actually, I had started in November, and this isn't a book that should have taken me as long as it did to read. I think I was just feeling jarred because the style was so dang different. So Hail Mary is by Andy Weir. It's a science fiction book, and true to an Andy Weir style book, it's very like tongue-in-cheek and colloquial, which is totally fine. And as I sat down and like dedicated time to reading it, I appreciated it more. But going from these various fantasy series to this very like modern science fiction book I was just weird. I kept having to like cage myself as I was reading, which meant that each time I was reading was either a really short period or a really long period. I was originally reading it with a friend, but they were listening to it on an audiobook while they were working on a bunch of design projects, which meant that they were dedicating a bunch of hours to getting these projects done, and they ended up eclipsing me in reading it, which is totally fine. He was very nice and didn't spoil anything for me, and we talked about it when I reached the points that I did. But we had been like lined up for the first couple of times, and then, which is funny because it's the opposite of what we thought was going to happen, because typically I just sort of chew through books. But I was distracted with the other series that I was reading, and like I said, it was just jarring going back and forth. There is like a particular relationship in this book, though, that I am head over heels. I love so much the dynamic between two particular characters. I don't want to spoil anything, but I really, really liked it, and I gave it a 4.5 overall, ultimately. The last page, I think, could have just been cut, though. It just wasn't necessary. It was very cheesy. But I guess it wouldn't be an Andy Weir book if there wasn't something kind of cheesy. The penultimate book for 2025 was De Red Gabo's Last Stand, which is a Warhammer 40k book. You're following a Gretchen, which is like, I don't know, are they orcs? I don't actually know. They're like squishy little orcs, or are they like, I think they might be like a whole other species. But you're following one of those, and they're like essentially the like bitch boys for the orcs. They're servants. They're the fodder for the cannons. Like, that's what they're used for. And De Red Gabo is in all of us, and it's like a resistance story. But it's very goofy, and it's all spelled in the way that like orcs talk. Lots of Z's and cut off words and a little bit Cockney coded, and it's just very silly. This one was written by Andy Ewington. It was a lot of fun, and I am going to go read more of the Red Gabo installments, which they do. They do those like, they have been doing them every year for Christmas for a few years, and then I think they're doing a new character type or character style or something for this upcoming year, according to the guy at the Warhammer store that we went to over Christmas. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be. And then the very last book in 2025 that I read was Babel. So another R.F. Kuang book. This was a solid 5 for me. It's like very academic coded. It's very academia. Down to the footnotes. It has footnotes. There's a lot of foreign languages used in the writing. Like there's Latin and there's French and there's Mandarin and Cantonese, I think. And there's Creole, like Haitian Creole, and there's a bunch of languages. And Everything but the French got a translation, so that's like my one nitpick. Why did we not translate the French? I don't know French. I know German. I could translate the German parts myself, thank you. But not everybody knows German, so like, of course, they translated that. Anyway, I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a fun and kind of unique magic system. And I will probably talk a little bit more about this because this is one of my top reads of 2025, so I'll probably talk about this in my next video. It's gonna be hard for me to whittle it down to just 3 and 3. I might end up breaking my own rule and do 5 and 5. We'll see how it goes. Either way, solid 5 out of 5. I ended on a bang. That was a good, like literally, that was a very good book. And then I have 3 carryovers that I didn't finish in 2025, but I have already or will be finishing in 2026. The first of which is Devotion to Suspect X. I started that in August. That is by Keigo Higashino. It is a thriller, not a thriller, it's like it's a Japanese whodunit, kinda, except for you know whodunit at the beginning. I guess it's a thriller. It's suspense. It's a suspenseful book. And I was really enjoying it, and I am taking like really detailed notes on this one. I'm basically summarizing each chapter and writing down who the characters are and like dedicating a lot more time to fleshing out my understanding of this book than I've done in the previous books. And I think I want to do a dedicated video on it maybe. We'll see. No promises, but I am enjoying it a lot. It was a suggestion from a friend, however I didn't finish it. I put it down in August before the times hit me, and then I just haven't picked it up since then because I have to dedicate energy to it. And I didn't have energy for a long time, and then I didn't have time for a long time. The second carryover is going to be The City and Its Uncertain Walls. This is by Haruki Murakami. This is another Japanese literary fiction. It's beautiful. I'm about halfway through. I just haven't finished it. I was reading it in the middle of October, and then I got swept up into the ACOTAR nonsense for the books club, and then I just kept reading nonsense. Either way, I'm going to get back to it. It's a beautiful book, what I've read of it so far. And then the third one is a carryover that I've actually completed. I finished it on the 4th of January. It's called A Fate Inked in Blood. It's by Danielle L. Jensen. It's a Norse romantasy. It's all like Norse mythology, but magic. I don't know. Whatever. It was fine. It was fine. I stumbled on it, started reading it, realized this was not an appropriate book to read at work, started reading it at home instead, and I enjoyed it overall. And I am in the second book now, and that's all I really have to say about that right now. I don't want to like get too into it because I'm going to cover it in quarter one's book review, or maybe I'll do it bi-monthly. Do you guys want me to do monthlies? Maybe? I don't know. Whatever. Okay. Thank you for joining me on this video. I'm going to put my Goodreads and my Fable like profile links below so you can friend me if you want to. And if you've read any of the books that I read this year and have thoughts on them, please share them with me. If you have like suggestions based on the things that I have read and you've heard me say that I like, I'm always taking suggestions. I have a little note in my notepad that I have written down things that I want to read. So like I've started Hamnet. I've obviously started the last book of Throne of Glass. I'm on the second book of Wax. I'm actually on the third book of Wax and Wayne right now. Senlin Ascends is a book that I'm reading for a different book club, and I'm enjoying it. So those are more things that you can like think about for books that I may or may not enjoy if you have suggestions for me. But otherwise, I will catch you all in the next one. Oh my god, I totally forgot to do this before I departed. But like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I don't know. I've heard that if I say that, people are more likely to do it. I don't know why I'm so itchy today. Clearly I've turned the lights on and I've been moving around and stuff. But yeah, okay, now for realsies, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!